Welcome to the Fantasy Football Pizzeria podcast. I am your host, Zach Sicardi. I'm here with my co-host, John Marler.
Mer.
What's up, John?
What's up, Zach?
How you doing?
I'm doing quite baller. How about you?
Good, man. Good. Happy to be doing this. I'm really excited to get started on the podcast and, just hit the ground running.
With pizza?
With pizza. Yes. Here we are with the Pizzeria podcast. Just want to just kind of give you guys a rundown of what we're going to be doing for this first episode. Pretty much just going to get into the idea behind the Fantasy Football Pizzeria podcast, a little bit of what to expect on a week-to-week basis. Also, we'll get into a little bit about ourselves just to kind of go through, who we are, why we're podcasting, so on and so forth. And then we'll also go through a little bit of the information, a breakdown of what's coming on our upcoming shows.
Zach will bleed his passion in audio format for you.
Ultimately, what he's talking about is, I would assume, is pizza and fantasy football. Those are the two things that bring us here tonight. We're actually recording this on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, before the season starts, 2019.
Yep. So we're trying to be timely with it, and we just finished a good amount of our drafts this weekend. I had some earlier, so now that that's all kind of in the books, we wanted to get together and just have fun and talk about two of the things that we love the most in this world. Well, for the most part, one of them is pizza. I mean, there's probably a couple other things before fantasy football, but it's definitely right up there.
Yeah, and I just want to state again, it's 2019 in case you're listening to this in the future, because it's going to be that popular that people are going to come back and listen to it, so they can look back on this moment.
It's actually 9:03 p.m. Mountain Standard Time if you really want to timestamp it.
All right. Let's get into it, bro.
Let's do it. So ultimately, we're going to go through just a kind of a breakdown of what to expect. We're going to talk a little bit again about the idea behind the Fantasy Football Pizzeria podcast, give you a little idea of who we are, and then go into a couple of fantasy and, of course, pizza-related questions.
This is the only fantasy football pizza-themed podcast I'm aware of.
Yes. I've looked and listened to many fantasy podcasts out there, only a handful of pizza ones, but them coming together, this is the first time.
And I actually saw one podcast where they mentioned pizza, and they actually used it as a way to talk about a player, but it was like a one-time thing.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was interesting. I think he was sensing, maybe he was following you on Instagram, and
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was probably some 7 degrees to Kevin Bacon thing happening there where
bacon can be a pizza topping.
Yes. I think that's kind of where my brain's at as well. That's why I never really talk about Kevin Bacon. I'm not a fan of his or anything. So, but here we are. Here we are talking about him. No, ultimately, just to kind of give you an idea, we're just here to have some fun. We love fantasy football. Yeah. We love pizza.
We don't have any corporate overlords. We work day jobs. So
exactly.
We have nothing to lose. We'll probably say things that we regret at some point in time.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to give a shit about my Twitter timeline or anything I said in 2019. That's really going to
host the Oscars or something?
Exactly, yeah. I'm not, geez, it's fantasy football and fucking pizza. Nothing I, wouldn't stake claim to here. But honestly, just to kind of, give you an idea, we just want to kind of keep it really light, have some fun, just give you, a place to come every Tuesday, morning, noon, or night for about 20 minutes, take the edge off, talk some fantasy, talk some pizza, and, just give you something to kind of look forward to on that time between games.
Yeah, I think this will be a good place, whether you're an expert of fantasy football or whether you are completely new to it. I think that Zach's charisma and his eyes as I stare into him as he awkwardly looks away.
It's getting hardcore here.
He's feeling it.
Yeah. Something's going on.
Anyway, I just felt that needed to be shared with everyone. That's a big reason why we're here.
Well, thank you. Yes, it's because of my eyes, and they are blue, and I am here. And this is awesome. Yeah.
Blue like some other things.
Yeah. yeah, exactly.
Cookie Monster. Cookie
Exactly.
Monster reference.
Blue like the Cookie Monster and the ocean and the sky.
Yeah.
But we're going to get into things like player news, headlines, waiver wire ads, start sits, pepperoni black olives, rankings, deep dish, New York style, you name it.
If you're ever confused about a pizza reference, it's more about what it feels like and in the context of what it said, as opposed to it being literal.
Exactly, yeah. I use the word pizza and pepperoni usually to mean something positive, but it's a really good kind of fill-in word. If you don't want to say a specific word, if you want to curse, it's really fun lingo. I mean, it's just who would get mad at someone saying pizza, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of like the Wookiee sound. It can be used in many different ways, and it's in the context of how you say it.
Yes, very true. John makes this sound when he greets you that he's always done. And I know Star Wars, so okay. And John was just sort of like that, like weird dude who I met at work, and I thought, okay, that's cool. You know, it's definitely different. I don't need to be hello, hi, how are you? And then yeah, he just keeps it. He keeps it real with that. So it's always funny when I get a phone call and it's him, and it's like the, and it's cool. It's different.
Well, like this podcast, I think it's just it feels right and stay true to who we are.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Having fun, which is real cool, you know, and kind of creating your own lingo amongst friends. So yeah, we're happy to share that with you guys. We'll actually even be doing an ongoing segment each week where we will give you the pepperoni of the week and the pineapple of the week. Ultimately, the pepperoni would be a player that we expected to play well, and he did, and or a sleeper that we were excited about and also delivered. And on the pineapple end of it, it's going to be a player that you anticipated to play well and shat the bed. So I think that's a pretty easy, reference there. So we'll be doing that on a weekly basis. Something kind of fun, just to kind of keep the whole pizza thing going, and kind of talk a little bit about what had happened that week.
I kind of like pineapples.
Yeah, sure, it's a fruit, but on pizza, I mean, come on now, you know. I mean, I can be a forward-thinking individual, but
Have you ever had a virgin pina colada?
no, I've not.
It's pretty good.
I've only had, I think, one virgin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
daiquiri.
Yeah, daiquiri. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with me being Zachary. Nothing to do at all. And we'll be taking a couple minutes each episode to kind of talk about the pizza of the week. And ultimately, we're going to be rating it by giving a player comparison. So that way it's easy to kind of follow along. We realize, and I apologize, we haven't mentioned this, that we're in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is the pizza capital of. No, I'm joking. It's not a pizza capital of anything.
Breaking Bad capital?
Yeah, it's the Breaking Bad. It's the meth capital of the whatever.
Of AMC.
Of AMC, yeah. No, Breaking Bad's awesome. I actually saw that just about 2 years ago. I have the kind of thing where when things just come out, everyone's making a big deal about them. I'm not so into it. I kind of shy away from it. But yeah, it's an awesome show.
But going back to the pizza of the week.
Yes.
So this is different from where you were just talking about how you use pizza related things to discuss players. Pizza of the week is not like a player of the week. It is literally a physical pizza that we have every week.
Exactly.
And discuss. It'll be a different pizza every week. Obviously, we're from Albuquerque, New Mexico, so we will have the choices that are available in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Maybe we'll splurge one of these days and order some frozen pizza from Chicago, or I don't know if New York does that or do they?
I'm not sure. I would think so. I did see something recently where someone ordered a pizza. It was somewhere probably online where they ordered from Chicago.
Like Giordano's or
Yeah,
something?
yeah. Maybe I sent it to you. I honestly forgot. It was probably something on Instagram that I saw, but I thought, how clever. Oh yeah, it was actually okay.
But in addition to that, we'll also talk about personal leagues that we're in. We're in a couple leagues together, and we'll go through the ups and downs throughout the season with you through that.
Yeah, I think that'd be, just kind of keeping it casual. You're here at the pizzeria. We're just having a slice. We're talking some fantasy. We're keeping it positive, having a good time. So yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit about our own leagues, teams. We're ultimately gonna be here for you throughout the season, week by week, so that way, we we can enjoy this and just have all this fun together. You know what I mean?
No, I mean,
It's so fun.
Papa Zach.
No, we're very excited to be doing this. This is actually just a lot of fun, um, podcasting and just being here. And quite honestly, hearing my voice come through these headphones, it feels very like official.
Oh,
You
wow.
know? Yeah, yeah. Like it doesn't feel just like a Google Doc anymore, or
Yeah.
like a text message. So, um, yeah, it's just this is a lot of fun. So, um, I'll say a couple times, but I'll probably weed that out here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so. Just one of those things where you're just aware. Another thing I did want to mention is we are really big fans of music. We love music. It's been in our lives, for as long as I can recall. So we're going to incorporate a little bit of that within this podcast as well.
Yeah.
Just
Stick
kind of.
around to the end, the teaser. Zach is going to play some drums while I read some famous quotes.
Yeah, yeah. Why not, right? He has a drum machine right here. I'll get on and wail a little bit while he just reads some quotes. Kind of a fun idea because again, we want to keep it light. We with love and music, we're also really big in the quotes. Kind of so the whole power of words and something to keep with you and just something positive. So. We may kind of switch it up a little bit week to week, but here today I'm going to play some drums while John reads some of those quotes at the end, so that'll be a lot of fun.
Awesome. And mentioned it a little bit earlier, but we are on social media. Tell them where they can find you, Zach.
So you can find me on Twitter at FFPizzaMan.
That's on Twitter.
That's on Twitter. And then on Instagram, you can find me at Fantasy Football Pizzeria. And for those out there, Pizzeria is spelled Pizzeria. I know you want to throw that A in there instead of the E, but just to kind of holler that out there. That's all.
No, that's very good. First time I saw it, I had to think about it and recognize the spelling.
It's one of those words, you're always
because it's not pizza as the root.
Exactly. It's almost kind of looks like a little bit more fancier, with the ERIA kind of thing.
Cool. And on me, you can find me at Life Never Lost. That's both on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. And just so you know, Life Never Lost is multiple things to me and my good friend Daniel. It is a band, but it is also an outlet for us to do a lot of different creative stuff. So if you go there and you don't just see fantasy football related stuff, you're still in the right place.
Awesome.
You may see chicks with cars or Daniel breaking a large water gun over my chest, some bear suits, some music, some drumming. Don't be shy.
Awesome. Yeah. John's all about the creativity.
Zach, what is your favorite team and why?
My favorite team is the New York Jets. The reason why is I'm originally from New Jersey, and they were the underdog team. And we were poor and white and Irish, so they have, green. So it was kind of silly, but it was just one of those connections. And it was kind of easy to root for because, they were the underdogs, and you kind of felt like, we had something in common.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
My favorite team is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I've been born and raised here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And the reason I'm a Steelers fan, obviously we do not have any pro NFL teams here. And the biggest sports fan in my family is my uncle. And he was born in Pittsburgh on Super Bowl Sunday. And so his passion bled out to multiple people in the family. And that's why we are a Steelers family.
What a cool thing to be aware that you were born on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, he probably didn't know until he was a couple years old or something. But he looked back on it and found out.
Cool.
The only thing that would have been better is if the Steelers were in that Super Bowl.
Yes.
They weren't, but still pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely cool. I was also born on a Sunday in March, but there's definitely no Super Bowl.
No.
But it was still a Sunday, and that's cool. It's football Sunday, so yeah, kind of in that same category.
Can we say Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I don't think we can't say anything. So we're gonna just get into a little bit more, just some basic questions to kind of let you guys know kind of what we're about, so on and so forth. So we're just gonna kind of treat this just sort of like we're hanging out and just giving you a place to hang out and just get to know us. So we're gonna kind of just go through and just see what's what.
All right. Well, let's learn a little bit more about each other.
All right, let's do it.
How long have you been playing fantasy football, Zach?
I have been playing fantasy football since 2011.
Oh, nice.
Yes, and my first pick was Jamal Charles, who after the second game of the week went on IR for the whole fucking year. So my first pick was out. And then the next year in 2012, I actually drafted Adrian Peterson in the fourth round. He had just been coming off of that ACL, MCL tear. And he actually finished number one. And I actually won the first 10 games that year, and I got the bye, and then I got bounced in the semis. But that's ultimately what gave me the bug for fantasy, is just that sort of chance I took on Adrian Peterson in the fourth round, which was, I guess pretty damn fair back then. He was always a first round pick, even, thereafter. So, and just, yeah, that was just so fun to win. Gosh, man, it was just
A lot
I
of
loved
success early on.
Yeah, I mean, God, and I can remember just like using guys on the waivers and understanding that like system more, and kind of how to do a little bit more of my research, and then that competitive bug just kind of got me, and I always loved talking football and playing video games, and it was something that I always kind of felt really confident in. So after that 2012 season, it really kind of just went up from there.
Awesome, dude. I started about 2010, 2011, technically. I think the first year or two, I can't remember if it was 2 years or not, but I didn't know what fantasy football was. No one had showed it to me, and so just on my own, I was like, I'm just gonna sign up for a free league and see how it goes. And just because of my love of the Steelers, I drafted every single player as a Steeler.
Awesome.
So I'm talking, third and fourth string
Awesome.
type guys.
All right.
And I was pretty proud that I was able to win 2 games that year
Wow, damn.
with just Steelers players.
Jericho Cotchery in the house.
I mean, there's I remember, I think it was Isaac Redmond. It was some
Okay.
running back for the Steelers that most people won't remember today. And even at the time, I was like, who's this guy? Getting like 150 yards and a couple touchdowns. And obviously, I didn't have a long-term success with all Steelers players, but I just imagined that other guy losing to an all-Steelers team and how that must have made him feel.
Yeah, especially if he himself was not a Steelers fan and or a fan of another AFC North team.
And spoiler alert, I did not win the bye week for the Steelers.
Oof, tough.
Yeah, it was tough.
That's tough.
But since then, I've been, playing relatively normal fantasy football with other players than just Steelers.
Smart move. So, John, why are we podcasting?
I think so. Just to make you feel a little uncomfortable again. I don't know, dude. Being Zach's friend for this long, I have noticed like such a passion and knowledge and enthusiasm and commitment that I've seen from you that seems so genuine. And in this world where people are so concerned about appearances and what they think they need to do, seeing that has really inspired me a lot. And I felt that, and just the way that you express yourself with players and stuff, I was like, man, I feel the world needs to hear this, and I think that we could make it entertaining together. So I think, and with the whole pizza perspective, and not giving a crap and just saying and playing drums while we read quotes, and
Yeah.
being able to just really make it our own and have fun with it. I felt it's at least we got to at least try.
Awesome, man. That's really cool, dude. I know that we talked about that before, which kind of gave us, the sort of enthusiasm to get this off the ground. And I'm really excited to be here and just, talk fantasy football, talk about pizza. I'm happy to be podcasting right now and just even hearing myself come through the headphones. It's kind of surreal, as silly as it sounds. But yeah, no, I'm just happy to be here with you, dude, and to talk some fantasy football and have something to look forward to in addition to our teams, the league, just the ups and downs of the NFL season. I mean, geez, it's so dramatic. It's like, it's so fun. I mean, I don't keep touch with politics or any TV shows or any of this sort of thing, but fantasy football is it, and football in, in general to just to kind of go over it. But very cool. Well, hey, I'm really glad that we can kind of share that because we just want to share our passion with y'all.
Well, to get to know each other a little bit more and for everyone to know us, let's change topics slightly
Okay.
and tell us what is the last thing or the last song that was on your Spotify.
Thing song.
Thing song.
Thing song. So, what's really cool about this question, and it's something I think we're gonna do weekly, because music's fucking awesome. I mean, geez, I love incorporating music in all my fantasy leagues. I think most of my team names are songs of all kinds of random shit that I actually make a playlist on and I play during my drafts, whether I tell the people at my draft or not, and it psychs me the fuck up. So, we're going to probably be doing this each week. We both have Spotify. It's awesome. We also do Google Play and all that good shit. And it's great. So the last song that I listened to here was a song by Tool on their latest album. It's called Invincible. Really cool song. It's about like 12 minutes. I just started listening to their album. It came out here recently. It's a very long album, something I have to take a while to digest. But song-wise, the song Invincible is awesome. It's got a lot of simple parts, but you can definitely get lost in it. And I'm excited to be sharing that. What about you, John?
Cool, man. Well, I'll have to check out that song. I haven't listened to it by Tool yet. I always kind of used to think like Tool must be demon possessed because that's the only explanation as to why people listen to their music.
Possibly at some point, especially early.
But in any case, I'll give it a shot.
Cool.
So we had put show notes together for the show, and so I wanted to be authentic because I was really worried that I have a diverse taste in music, and I didn't want like some Fifth Harmony song or something to be on there. So luckily, when I was reading the show notes, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna put whatever's there. It's a song called Murder Mitten by Icy Stars. Do you know them?
No.
So it's kind of like, I believe they could classify themselves as electronicore. So like hardcore with electronic themes.
Okay.
And the song's pretty cool. It means a lot to me. It kind of it reminds me of like my father's death because it talks about, one of the lyrics is, I can see that we may be running out of time. And recognizing that and how things are changing and how life impacts you in that way.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome, man. I mean, to pull like such a strength and a connection with music. Honestly, that's the whole idea of the Pizzeria Fantasy Football Pizzeria podcast. It's just fantasy football, pizza, music. The things that keep us here and that we can really connect with. So that's really cool, man. I see stars. Cool.
So going along with father's death,
Mm-hmm.
how many slices of pizza have you had in your lifetime?
I can see that's an amazing segue there. We're going from father's death to how many slices I've had over my lifetime. Well, that's a great question. I've had about 18,924 lifetime slices.
Wow.
Yeah, I kept track. I thought it was something that would be a great thing, when I got older and when I was about 4 years old, when I could actually, eat pizza on my own and, count and stuff. I started keeping tallies. So, we're at 18,924. So I'm pretty proud of that number.
Wow, that's an impressive number.
Yeah. How about you, John? How many lifetime slices have you had?
I didn't keep track. I was not as diligent as you, especially at such a young age. I think a conservative estimate I'm guessing that I've probably had at least 3 slices per week every week of my life.
Okay.
Since the age of 10.
Okay.
That's being pretty conservative. It could be a lot more, but I'm 31 years old now, so since the age of 10, 21 years, so 3 slices times 52 weeks times 10 years, approximately 3,276 lifetime slices.
Wow, that's pretty impressive, man.
I mean, like I said, it could be a lot more, but I didn't want to overstate and make people think like, oh, he's trying to pump up his pizza numbers.
Yeah.
You know?
Hey,
But
man.
I'm confident in that number.
I think it's great. I like the formula that you have to come out with that number. And I think it's important to know how many slices of pizza we've eaten. So you know you're actually talking to two qualified professionals here. We had eaten 500 slices by this point in our lives. I mean, come on now.
Right, true.
But 18,000?
We wouldn't be able to do this podcast without having those years of back work.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, this has been a long time coming. So, John, tell me about pizza toppings. What are your 3 favorite? Top 3, rank them.
I think it changes over time, but right now, number 1 for me is pepperoni.
Okay, heard of that.
Number 2, jalapeno.
Jalapeno, okay.
Number 3, black olives.
Okay.
And I think that those also go very well all together.
Oh, very cool.
What about you?
You know, I do agree the 101 is pepperoni, followed by black olives, and then this is kind of, I guess, maybe a sleeper.
Sleeper.
Yeah, it's broccoli. Good old broccoli. A great texture, great crunch. It's a vegetable. It goes really well with the pepperoni black olives. I know it sounds a little far-fetched, but broccoli on pizza is fucking delicious.
You've been telling me about broccoli on pizza for a few years, and I've still been too scared to try it. Also, there's been a lack of opportunity. Are there any major, how many pizza places actually offer broccoli as a topping?
That's a great question. Not too many do, actually. I always have to look at the menu. When I see the B's, it's always bacon. Oh, excuse me. And probably, black olives, all this, but definitely not broccoli. So when you see it on the menu, it's pretty exciting. I think it started when I went to Seattle a couple years ago, and I went to this Italian restaurant. It had some sort of Italian dish, and they had broccoli in it. And I thought the sauce and the broccoli and the texture was just so delicious. So introducing it to pizza, I don't know, it was just awesome. And again, with the texture with it, something different. I like the meats and the vegetable part, so it was it's definitely been on my top 3 list here recently. Not something that I've gotten into when I was a kid, but here recently, broccoli is definitely the 103.
So hit us up on the Fantasy Football Pizzeria, and let's see, what was your Twitter handle again?
So it is FF Pizza Man.
So hit up at FF Pizza Man and say if you've had broccoli.
Yeah, let us know.
On
let
your
me
pizza.
know.
Let them know. Or if you haven't, is there any chance that you're willing to try it?
Yeah, you got to be open-minded, I mean, there's players that I drafted this year that I don't think I've ever drafted. Antonio Brown. So, I mean, you gotta be in it to win it. So
Yeah, you gotta give it a shot. But
yeah.
anyway, any a couple pizza places that you want to mention, locations, chains, whatever that you like.
Cool. I'll mention one from back home, which is in Washington Township, New Jersey, which is in Bergen County. There's 100 Washington Townships in New Jersey, but this one is in Bergen County. It's called Original Italian Pizza. It's fucking delicious. I went back recently, and I probably I had so many damn slices, and I got most of them plain because it's so delicious that you don't even need to fuck with toppings.
Wow.
Yeah, dude.
That's special.
Man, it was awesome. And I think I had a pie or two, but I got a lot of slices because I just love it so much, and it's so nostalgic. And yeah, so it's Original Italian Pizza. I think they're on Instagram, so you can check on Original Italian Pizza. It's OIP. You may see that as their handle.
Nice. And you said one here as well you like, right?
Yeah, recently there's this one. It's called Brickyard Pizza. It's by the university here in Albuquerque. It's a bar. Really, really delicious pizza. They have a deep dish, and then they have a hand toss, and they're both delicious. The crust, the sauce, and really the biggest thing for me is the cheese to sauce ratio, and it's really, really it's very balanced at Brickyard Pizza. They also, I believe, are on Instagram. But I would say, as far as recently here in Albuquerque, that's gonna get the get the top spot for me.
Awesome. Well, for me, the two places I'll mention locally here, one is Giovanni's, great thin crust pizza, in my opinion, here in Albuquerque, and then Village Pizza, which is a thicker, I wouldn't say it's not a deep dish, but definitely a thicker pizza, and they're both great in their own ways between the cheese and sauce ratio, and texture is a big thing for me. Also, crust to toppings and pizza ratio, or sauce and cheese ratio, is important to me. How well it's done,
Oh yeah.
the flavor. There's a lot of things, but different pizzas, but still both great.
And Village Pizza definitely does have broccoli. I went there with my
Oh,
girlfriend
okay.
last year.
Good to know.
Yeah, around Christmas time, and they definitely have broccoli. So, yeah, check that out.
Maybe I'll do the buffet
Yeah.
and ask them to make it for the buffet, so that way, if I'm not feeling it,
Yeah, hey.
I didn't, drop $30 on a broccoli pizza that I didn't like.
I know this is a pizzeria podcast, but that's how I got into eating sushi. Is I used to work at this credit union in New Jersey, and they had these extravagant holiday parties, and they had during the cocktail hour they had these sushi chefs making sushi, and I thought, fuck, if it sucks, I'll just keep drinking, just wash it down. And I really enjoyed it.
No, I
And
thought
I
you were
thought-
saying pizza buffets got you into sushi.
Oh no, pizza buffets I'm a little wary on because that tells me the quality of pizza may be, kind of lacking, but. It is pizza though, so I am not gonna dismiss it. But yeah, no. For really quick here for the fantasy football sushi house podcast that we'll be doing after this. Sushi is also delicious, but yeah, I was able to try it without having to waste any money in that endeavor.
I'm allergic to fish.
Oh really?
I can eat shellfish, but I can't eat non-shellfish.
So can you eat shrimp?
I can eat shrimp
Okay.
and crab, lobster,
All right.
but no tuna or
No tuna?
salmon or yeah.
Well, you can definitely eat some delicious fish, but yeah, no, that's a bummer. But fucking, who cares, man? This is a pizzeria podcast. You can eat pizza, rock and roll. We're all good. We don't need any of our meds. Everything's cool.
In addition to a pizza podcast, it's also a fantasy football podcast.
It is, yes.
And some people that were excited about this episode told me, I don't know what fantasy football is. So how would you describe fantasy football to someone who has no idea what it is, Zach?
That's a good question. I've been asked this over the past couple of years just because of my enthusiasm with it amongst coworkers and friends and things like that. And honestly, I can say the easiest way is you're constructing a team. You're literally picking players from all of the teams in the NFL to construct your own team. And ultimately, it's if you want to think of it just like an actual football team, that's exactly, in a lot of cases, how the format is for fantasy. So you have one quarterback, and you have two running backs. You'll have 2 to 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and then from there you would have a defense, which would be an entire team, not individuals like we're speaking on offense, and then you would in some cases have a kicker. So ultimately you're picking these individual players to make up one whole team. And with defense, you're looking at an entire team. You're not getting in the individual basis with defense. And what you do is you construct this team as well as bench players. And throughout the entire season, based on how well they do in real life, you get points. For instance, touchdowns, passing yards, things like that. Those will get you points. So you want to keep an eye on the games because it'll dictate how well your teams do.
Yeah, and even I think the word fantasy throws off some people because they're like, but football really does exist. So it's real stats in terms of what they're doing on a week-to-week basis. But what the fantasy aspect is that you're combining players that aren't really on a team and combining their scores together.
Exactly. You're playing the general manager by drafting these players who all play on separate teams, but they ultimately make up your own fantasy team. And you pretty much, the way it goes and the way it works is you play head to head. So my group of guys during week 1 play John's. Then the next week I play other teams, and then typically you're gonna play each other maybe twice a year, sometimes just once, and then you're gonna put your group of guys next to theirs, and then whoever scores the most in real life, it reflects in fantasy, and then ultimately that's how you will come to a winner at the end of each week.
And something that I think that goes underrated in fantasy football, or at least isn't talked about a lot, is that when I have failures in my real life, I can forget about those failures and use the successes of my fantasy football team to project their success in my own life success.
Yes, yes. Oh
So,
yeah.
so when I'm feeling really down, and then I can look to my fantasy football team, and if they're winning, it can make me happy. But if they're not, I get even more sad because then I realize I can't even succeed
Yeah.
in a fantasy football situation.
Yeah, I've used fantasy football to a fault as a barometer of where I'm at in my life. Just within a crazy Sunday or something. But you know what? Fantasy football along with pizza, it's just such a it's such a way to take off the edge and just to enjoy life. And um, when everything else is kind of going crazy, your emotions, things at home, and whatever, you can look towards things like fantasy football, and it really does give you, just something to really enjoy. Um, and yeah, definitely, I like what you said earlier about the fantasy aspect of it. I think it sounds almost like silly. That's where I think when people hear it, they think fantasy. That sounds so wussy. Go
Like,
go out there and actually play football.
yeah, come on, Frodo.
Yeah, yeah,
Throw that ring in the
yeah,
mountain or whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Get some
But
fantasy. So that's what fantasy football is. What is pizza?
pizza, yeah. So pizza is it's pretty much life. When I think about pizza, I use it for so many words. People have called me that over the years. They call me pizza or pizza man. But pizza is a delicious food that makes the world go round. It gives people reasons to live. It just it loves you. It doesn't care like where you're from or what color skin you have. Any of that. Pizza just loves, and it's it's something that I think has only improved mankind. I think if there's one thing that when the aliens come visit us that they're gonna say that we did right was pizza. I mean, as far as the whole culture behind it, the word. I mean, God, who's gonna get mad at the word pizza? Like that would never upset anybody. I mean, geez, like it has two Z's in it. It has vowels and shit. It's pizza. Like it's just so fun to hear and say. So maybe on a deeper level, that's how I would
Yeah, that's
define pizza.
a
Yeah,
much deeper answer than I was
yeah. There's
expecting.
probably some like ingredients in what is pizza that would.
Does pizza need crust?
It does, and
If you just got cheese and sauce and
no,
toppings,
yeah,
it's not pizza.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. You
Okay.
have to have that bread element. The crust is
Okay.
arguably the best part.
So at least crust, sauce, cheese. That's the minimum.
Yes, definitely.
If any one of those are missing, it is not pizza.
Exactly. Yeah. If any of those are missing, then you may want to reevaluate.
All right. Well, I have a question for you, Zach.
Oh well, hopefully I have an answer.
I got to tell you a story first, though.
Oh, okay.
Last year, a work league, fantasy football league, was created. We had a little bit of difficulty getting enough members, so it ended up being an 8-person league. Also, part of the difficulty was getting people to pay, so ended up being a free league.
Oh, well, okay.
There's also a lot of inexperienced people, some having no experience and some having little experience with fantasy football. And so I dominated the draft.
Okay.
And even though it was, like picking off helpless people, I still thoroughly enjoyed it.
Awesome. Oh boy, yeah.
I had I wish I should have had a screenshot ready, but I had multiple first rounders. I had Melvin Gordon and James Conner and Joe Mixon and Devontae Adams and Antonio Brown. That kind of
All right, there
that
you
kind
go.
of team,
That's a good work league team.
Yeah. And I'd say at least half of the league had a hard time keeping consistent throughout the season in terms of picking up players or adjusting their teams properly for suspensions, injuries, etc. Anyway, I still lost. I can't remember if it was 1 or 2 games, but I did end up winning the championship.
All right.
Now, my question to you is, does that championship count?
Hell fucking yeah, it
Yeah?
counts. Yeah, oh god,
Okay.
yeah. You still have to go through all those damn games.
True.
You have to set all your players.
And especially one other guy, like he had a team that was close. It wasn't like I blew him out. A lot of people I did blow out, but
Yeah,
at least for
that
the championship.
honestly, that's where it starts. Maybe you win on a work league, and start to feel you're definitely feeling yourself, and you just keep taking it from there. Maybe you start a league with your friends, but that totally counts, man. I think it's so damn hard to fucking make a Super Bowl that if you can even get there, whether it's a work league and no one knows what the fuck that they're doing, or it's you and your buddies or guys on Instagram or experts or whatever. I mean, sure, you're gonna wanna or I should say, you probably will feel better when you win,
A
against your
money
friends.
league.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
money league and all that, but it's a start, dude.
Okay.
I mean, so
Well, I appreciate it because I felt for a long time it didn't count, but
Oh no, it counts.
you giving value in my life through fantasy football is appreciated.
Yeah, dude, it counts. I think I even played in a work league that I won. We deleted the league like immediately after, but I'm pretty sure I won it. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if I count it though, only because I was lucky that during that year and I had won some of my paid leagues. But if I want to tally everything, it definitely counts. So awesome, dude.
Awesome, man. Well, hit us up at FF Pizza Man. Let us know if you agree with Zach's assessment or not, and whether I deserve that championship.
He deserves it.
Or deserve it to at least tout
Doesn't
it.
matter who the fuck you're playing against. I mean, geez, it's you're here to have fun, and you also don't carry yourself like, oh, I'm the shit. I won a league, yada yada yada, at any of our drafts. So, I mean, if you did that, then I may give you some more shit about, so and so's mom being in your fantasy league because someone who you work with,
Yeah. Depends on if she makes cookies or.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Well, let's talk some draft stuff.
All right, let's do it.
I have a section here about draft etiquette, so I want to ask you some questions.
Let's do it. Let's hear it.
And this is not at all related to drafts that we just experienced this past week.
No. Okay.
So, with draft etiquette, as a commissioner, is there ever an appropriate time to pause a draft?
It's a great question. There is when, for instance, if you have folks who aren't signed in and they're not ready, even though you've, told them about it months in advance, weeks in advance, days in advance, they get the same fucking emails that you get. They have the same app that you have. So this weekend I ran into someone in one of my home leagues who did not know his sign-in information. And he told me this 10 minutes, or I should say my cousin told me this 10 minutes before we were going to draft. So I got this guy on the phone, and we figured it out. Ultimately, it was a password issue. We just couldn't get him his password. And then I'd say another time to pause the draft is if, let's say you're at the 11th round or something like that, and you don't need 90 seconds. Maybe you're cool with bringing it to 30. So you would pause the draft, you would change the clock to 30 seconds, and then you would resume it. I'd say those would be the two the two experiences where you would want to pause on your draft.
So I will say I had this discussion with a commissioner of another league that I'm in. Shout out to Christopher Wallace, who is a commissioner and has been a very good commissioner for multiple years. And I agree with his assessment, which was the only reason you should ever pause a draft is if there are technical issues from ESPN side. One draft we had a couple years ago in that league, it was a Saturday night, and ESPN was not working. It was not allowing people to log in, and it was not just like someone forgetting their password. It was something with the ESPN servers not working. Mm-hmm. And so that was a circumstance where he paused the draft. I think it's very kind of you to consider pausing the draft to help people sign in, and to also, even if you just want to speed up the draft and change the time, or just change or make it longer too. But I respectfully disagree. I think you need to be more cold-hearted.
Yeah, I don't think I can hear myself. Maybe I can right now. Kind of went out there for a second. Here I am now. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I guess, yeah. Um, I just don't want anyone to auto draft. I want it to be competitive and fun, and it's
So it's
human.
not even about empathy for the people, or maybe a little bit.
More for the rest of the league.
It's
I
more of
want to.
making it a good draft experience.
Exactly. The draft is the best fucking part of fantasy football the whole fucking year. I mean, geez, you get to pick all your players. Everyone's there, or they're online, and
It's like
it's just.
Christmas.
It is. It really is.
A
It's so.
Christmas of a bunch of men you can own.
Yeah, you have a bunch of men and whole defenses that you can own. But no, it. I want to have a fun environment. I want it competitive. And if it takes me having to pause, luckily I'm in this home league with a lot of good individuals who understand, and they know that about me, that I'm just trying to make it better. I'm not trying to help anyone out or do anyone a favor. So luckily, luckily I was able to get it paused and get him to sign in.
All right, kind of along those same lines, is there ever a good reason to restart a draft?
To restart it, um,
If someone makes a pick, hypothetically, that they didn't intend to pick,
uh,
or if anything else.
I don't think so. I mean, it would, unless it's one of those technical errors
Yeah.
that everyone's unable to sign in, or it's not letting you view certain players. I would say that would be an opportunity to. Sometimes there are lazy commissioners out there, and they don't. I just farted. That's why I kind of changed. I have a little bit more of a cocky tone here because I farted.
It was like a plastic plane.
It was like
on a zip line or something. Just like a short one. I mean, a short zip line, not a short
Yeah,
fart.
it won't smell. I don't have. Yeah, for some reason, my farts haven't smelled since like 2004.
Felt directional, not towards me.
Yeah, no.
Which I appreciate.
I'm just trying to breathe, trying to live here, trying to podcast. But to restart, no. I'd say the only reason you would want to restart a draft would be if there was an overall technical error with everyone, or if there was, let's say, the commissioner was lazy and he didn't set the proper parameters. I actually had this once where he had all these bench spots, all these flex spots, but he only let you like draft 6 running backs. So by the time I was trying to load up and I couldn't draft them anymore, I mean, I would have preferred to have had those options. Excuse me. But I mean, you'd have to catch it earlier for me to be okay with restarting it. It was a pain in the ass, and I had to adjust during the draft. But that's just how it goes, and yeah, it was just something to kind of keep an eye out for, for the upcoming season.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's similar to the first one, only if there's a ESPN wide or league wide technical issue. It's the only good reason to do that. Now, this is something I had to potentially, no, well, I guess it depends on how you view it, but are there any good reasons to miss a fantasy draft?
To miss it, well, yeah, if you have to go to a funeral.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, geez, you can't help if someone's living or dying. I mean, we love fantasy football, but there's things that are a little bit more important in life. I'd say if you won some like pizza, like tour of Italy or of like great places in Chicago or in New York, maybe that. But I mean, damn, you're on your phone as is. So
You could still do it digitally.
you can still draft. I mean,
Yeah.
even at weddings, you could still fucking draft. I mean, geez, like I can't, other than skydiving or working heavy machinery or something where you're like a surgeon or something like that. But to miss a draft, as far as signing in and letting it auto draft is just a waste. No, there's really no other reason other than death.
Yeah, I mean, so every year I go to Zach's house for the leagues that we're in together for draft party. We got pizza and good times.
Oh, yeah.
There's usually at least a couple entertaining picks that happen.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes we just explicitly call out people even if they're there. And then other times, Zach and I will just give each other a look, be like, what was that guy thinking?
Yeah, exactly. Like the fuck.
So, unfortunately, this year, and we're in two of these ESPN leagues together,
Yes.
and Zach coordinates the draft so that they're basically back to back.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I had an old friend pass away, and his funeral was right dab in the middle of these two drafts. And I mean, I was like, man, this is like one of the only things I could think of. If someone invited me to a wedding, I don't care if it was my mom's wedding or anything, I'd be like, you should have given me more notice.
Yeah.
I would
yeah.
not go.
Of course, dude.
And I hope you're listening, Mom. And you recognize that.
Yeah, don't get married.
But, if it's I don't know, I was trying to think of something else that's like a big life event in terms of like hanging out with friends or dinner or like, unless like the Steelers are like, hey, come to training camp with us or something like that. It would have to be like a really like time sensitive big opportunity or something for me to miss it, or a funeral that, and I just imagined, not that I would still want people to know the truth, but we joked about my wife going without me and people asking, where's John at? It's like, well, he had 2 fantasy football drafts.
Sorry, I couldn't make your funeral.
And I thought about the friend too, and I'm like, well, would he want me to be there? And I could kind of imagine, be like, well, it would have been nice if he had showed up. So
Yeah.
so I wanted to honor what I thought that what he would want. So
Yeah. And honestly, when John told me about this, I was like, it's all good, man. I just appreciate the communication. I mean, gosh, we're talking about someone losing their life. That's horrible, but the things that we look forward to and, the time that we set aside to enjoy those things, and when they get interrupted, being able to flex and stuff and make it work. And really what I just wanted to comment on was the communication, just that I mean, the last thing you think about when someone passes away is, something as frivolous as fantasy football, but to just respect the friendship and just the overall integrity of how people, should ultimately communicate. It really goes a long way. And it was like one of those things that I was like, okay, John has to auto draft. I know that he'll set his picks. It's all good. I didn't even worry about it. So
yeah, that's a really good point. For good reason or bad reason, if you're going to miss a draft, it's good to communicate with the commissioner so that they're aware and they can plan accordingly. And it just helps them. I think I've never been a commissioner, but I can imagine the amount of coordination and time that takes. Even if something from a individual player on that league, you may not recognize it as being that important, but I think all the little things add up. And Zach had talked about it, but I'll just break it down a little bit more. Because of this funeral, it was the first time that I used the pre-draft rankings feature that's in ESPN, which was very helpful. So you can essentially go in there and, it has the default list of players in terms of how they're being drafted, and you can adjust that to however you like. So if you usually, when I'm at this draft with Zach, I got multiple screens up with different references and tiers of what players and strategy and how I'm going to go through it. And so I was able to take those things that I would normally have and, on a desk with enough space to work on it, and use that to do my pre-player rankings, so that when I was at the funeral, I was able to actually still bust out my phone and look at there and still actually participate in the draft. I think my friend would have been okay with that because I was still there. If anyone who's listening was at that funeral and is now thinking less of me, that's what happened. So I'm pretty good at multitasking some things.
yeah, you're great.
At least the funerals and fantasy football drafts. So I was physically not at the draft, but virtually I still participated and talked a little bit of smack to one pick in particular. Do you know what that pick is, Zach?
Yes, and ultimately what he's alluding to is, and the reason why he asked me about when do you pause a draft is the gentleman who did not know his sign-in information, we had paused the draft for him. However, when we restarted the draft, the person who had the first pick I can only assume was maybe setting his cue or doing something. He himself is not the sharpest tool in the shed, and has in prior years has also had issue with signing in. Ultimately, when we restarted it, the first pick off the board, must have been something that he had queued up was Geronimo Allison,
Wide receiver of the Green Bay Packers.
wide receiver with the Green Bay Packers, and you know what?
Not the typical first overall pick.
No, not even the 8th overall pick or the 88th overall pick. I mean, geez.
Hey, God. 150th, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to look it up, but it would be a number that wouldn't make no sense. And
I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I was like, I like closed the app and reopened it just to make sure like things were like not messed up, and because especially the way it happened, it wasn't like the timer went down and then that pick happened, or it was like an instant pick. It seemed like a relatively normal pick where at least 30 seconds or so went by, and then the player was chosen. And I was the second pick, so I was like, okay, I guess I can get that Saquon Barkley dude.
yeah, I don't think my cousin was paying attention. He was the gentleman who picked Geronimo Allison. And I when I saw it pull up on the app, I was like, oh, I thought it was in a mock draft all of a sudden.
I've never seen that in a mock
I
draft.
thought it was like, I mean, I honestly didn't know what to think. I was kind of an out of body experience just seeing it, because you're so hyped up. You know, I was all kind of stressing because I had to pause the draft and I had to communicate that to everybody, and they weren't all in the same place. I have guys in different states and all this kind of thing. So when I resumed it and I saw Geronimo Allison as the 101, I mean, I didn't know I didn't know what to think. And then pick 2, John, he was the second pick. He went Saquon, and then pick 3, 4, 5, and then my cousin calls me during this. I mean, all these picks went off real quick, and he was pissed off and all that. And I just told him, I'm sorry, man. I can't go back. You know, I mean, it was up to you to be ready.
How to use the tool?
To know how to use the fucking tool, to know how to draft. I mean, geez, after we resumed it, you would have had at least 80 seconds to still secure your pick. But here it was, Geronimo Allison, and honestly, I felt really bad because, again, who wants that? You know, you want to have fun, and no one wants Geronimo Allison.
I assume he's not even a Packers fan.
No. There was no tie. He didn't clean Geronimo Allison's house once, and he was a real nice guy and tipped him or something.
Yeah.
He doesn't know him.
It just
He's
seemed
not
like
related
such
to
a
him.
confident pick, like in the draft.
It was unreal, and he called cursing at me, very upset, and I just told him, hey, I'm sorry to hear about this deal. I'm sorry. There's nothing that we can do. And then he said that he wanted to start over, and there was someone there with me who was drafting. He said, "Fuck that." People in the chat, there's a during each draft there's a little chat section. They were also saying, "Nope, can't do it. What's done is done," and it is unfortunate. It sucks, but honestly, like, there's worse things. I mean, even last year with Le'Veon Bell holding out.
I drafted Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, and he held out the whole year. So if you drafted him, you went without your first-round pick. In this instance, though, you're at least going to have Geronimo Allison.
He could start tearing it up.
I mean, he's not gonna deliver on that value with the 101 pick, the first overall pick, but it's not as bad as you'd think. I mean, plus, who knows with fantasy football, things change so quick that it really could mean nothing. But we probably know that it's going to mean something. It's really hilarious.
You never know, man. A couple years ago, when like Odell Beckham and Dalvin Cook were tearing it up, I traded. I had Larry Fitzgerald and I think like Mark Ingram, and I traded those two players for Odell Beckham and Dalvin Cook, and people were pissed off in the league. They're like, "This is an unfair trade. How could you get Odell Beckham and Dalvin Cook for Larry Fitzgerald and Mark Ingram?" Something like that. And that was a year that both Odell Beckham and Dalvin Cook got hurt for the rest of the year, and they were useless to me, and I really wish that I had Larry Fitzgerald and Mark Ingram.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, all you can see is red, and you're upset, and you can't imagine, but the way fantasy football goes, and just football, period, with how things change and injuries and opportunities and different schemes, things like that. It's ever changing. So
Yeah, and I told Zach this earlier, but uh, for the record, I talked to a few other commissioners, and they agreed that they would not restart the draft in that circumstance.
yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. It's a technical difficulty, but get your shit together. I mean, fucking A, get your shit together. The homie didn't have his password. Happened to be my cousin. Happened to be his friend. So, and I know he was the one. He was the first overall pick. And since he knew it was his friend who was delaying us, he wasn't beefing. But I know if it was fucking one of my friends or something else, he would have been. He's a very antsy guy. Good guy, real good guy. But he just, a little emotional.
Well, it's a great story. I'm not sure if that will ever be able to be topped.
No, no. Honestly, when I look over to the draft results and I see Geronimo Allison
Number one.
as number one, it just makes me laugh. And he's got such a great name, Geronimo Allison. And it's
Like,
just,
yeah.
it's
A
perfect.
masculine name with a female name.
Yeah, yeah. It's a
Geronimo
it's a two first namer.
I thought last year I had a draft where Dak Prescott went 7th overall, and I thought that was going to be. I didn't think that could be topped, but that was before Geronimo Allison, number 1 overall pick, 2019.
And he went 7th overall because it was a homer, right?
Yeah, that was a guy who was a Cowboys fan who really wanted him, didn't want anyone to be snatch him up. So
yeah, that's another thing about fantasy is you get these guys who just have a hard on for these players and their favorite team, so they're gonna draft them, and that's cool. Whatever, you leave a lot more value on the board for us. But yeah, that just to kind of wrap up that Geronimo Allison experience was really funny, and it just gives me joy. I make memes about it, and it's just so absurd. And
some great memes on
yeah.
Instagram if you want to check it out. Yeah.
Oh yeah, check it out, Fantasy Football Pizzeria. I got some memes about it. It's silly, but it just makes you laugh. It doesn't make my cousin laugh. He's still fucking pissed, but it makes us laugh. So that'll do.
I mean, maybe he can take some positive things out of it, and that pick has brought so much joy to so many people.
Yeah, I don't think so, but I I certainly feel that way because he's a competitor. We've been playing fantasy football together for a while, and that's another thing I love about fantasy football is it does bring people together. Friends, coworkers, family members. It's something to kind of keep up with during the fall winter months. You may not otherwise talk to some of these friends of yours if not for fantasy football. It's something to kind of talk about, in addition to what else is going on in your life. So, yeah, that's just another thing that I wanted to make mention of. That is one of the things I absolutely love about it is just all the involvement.
Awesome, man. Well, we still got a lot of stuff to go through, so let's speed things up a little bit.
Cool.
What was your favorite pick from your drafts this past weekend?
So I have to say I ended up with David Montgomery a lot in the third round, which I was very excited about. I had options like Kerryon Johnson, even Aaron Jones, but I went David Montgomery, and I just love his upside. I was a big fan of watching his tape at, I believe, Iowa State. I was doing Dynasty, which is where you keep all of your players. We can get into that later. Earlier this summer, so you had to kind of keep an eye on some of the rookies coming into the NFL, and he definitely stood out to me. And just with his situation, being with the Bears and that offense, so I'd have to say that was my favorite to secure David Montgomery.
All right. Well, my favorite pick was Antonio Brown.
Why is that?
Do you have any guesses?
Why that was your favorite pick?
Yeah.
Other than he was a Steelers, other than that you being a Steelers fan, probably something I'm not realizing, or the Mr. Big Chests, or maybe it was a good value, or I'm not sure why.
So there's no reason you would be able to guess this, but the reason why is because I felt obligated to get him. Because last week I had a brief interaction with Jerry Rice in San Francisco.
Mhm.
I asked him who I should draft in my fantasy football leagues, and he told me to draft AB, and that
Wow.
he just needs a little bit of help. I assume he was implying from the rest of his team. And then we high-fived. I had no intentions of drafting Antonio Brown, but I had a few picks where it just happened to work out, where I was able to get him in the second round. And so I drafted him a couple times.
You actually met Jerry Rice?
Yeah, and I high-fived him.
No shit.
Yeah, he was doing a charity event in San Francisco, where normally, I say normally, the the proper process was to like buy a lotto ticket type thing where they do a drawing, and depending on how much you donated to the charity, they had different tiers in terms of meeting him, getting a picture taken with him, getting a football signed, getting a jersey signed. But I realized I was just 7 feet away from him, so I just yelled that out at him, and then he yelled back at me, and then we high-fived.
Oh, that's so cool.
So I thought that was pretty cool, and I felt obligated to get Antonio Brown.
Oh, that's an awesome story, especially that you didn't have to pay to get that information.
Yeah, anytime that I can gain something without giving to charity, I think that's a win.
I love telling them no when I go to Walgreens and they want to know if I want to donate to this hospital or that hospital. Nope.
I mean, a big part of it is a lack of trust for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying don't be generous.
You should donate, but
Yeah.
I like to know that it's really going.
Yeah, I like to be more hands-on. I like to kind of feel a little bit more positive when I'm gonna donate, not just at Walgreens.
Cool. Well, what was your biggest reach of your drafts?
Biggest reach. That's
And I would assume by that you mean the player that you drafted maybe a little bit earlier than you needed to. Is that what you would say for reach?
yeah, I'd say so.
Okay.
Where their average draft position, where most people are drafting them, you're actually drafting them much earlier because you see the potential in them. I'd probably say it was Justice Hill. He's the running back for the Baltimore Ravens. I just love how the Ravens have a run first offense, and I could see him. I mean, he'll probably get a lot of the third down work and eventually a lot more playing time. And I just since he's also a rookie, I just thought a lot of folks weren't so aware of him, and I could really, if I can grab him and secure a player like that, it could, can have a lot of positives here to
Do
come.
you remember what round you got him in?
Probably like maybe like the ninth.
Okay, so not pretty good value if he works out.
Yeah, yeah. Again with the Ravens offense, I'm excited about them. They're more of a run first, and I'm pretty sure Justice Hill had like the fastest 40 time amongst running backs.
Oh, nice.
So I mean, he's definitely got speed. So I was excited to grab him up.
Awesome. Kind of a similar way, I think I reached a little bit for Miles Sanders. I just, it's such an awesome Philadelphia Eagles offense that I figured that running back had an opportunity, especially when his biggest competition is Jordan Howard. I used to be a huge Jordan Howard fan, but he just seemed slow the last season or so, and maybe that's everyone looks slow next to Tyreek Cohen, but in any case, moving on here. Who's your favorite bench stash and why?
Favorite bench stash, I like Damian Harris. He's a running back for the New England Patriots. Pretty much because I got him probably as the last spot in my draft. We have the leagues I run. They're a larger roster. It's about 19 rounds. Usually fantasy drafts are like maybe 15, 16 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple more players. So I got Damian Harris. The reason why he's my favorite stash is that he is a New England running back, and they typically always are. They typically get involved a little bit more than most other teams with their running back committees. And where he was drafted, some of the things that I'm hearing, I'm seeing online, as far as him being such a good pass catcher, and of course, being on one of the better offenses in the NFL doesn't hurt. So I think he could really, stand out at some point. I mean, who knows? It could be an injury, it could just be opportunity. But I would definitely, or I should say, he was someone that I was excited to grab as a last pick.
Awesome, man. Well, that's really good, especially as a last pick. This guy definitely wasn't a last pick, but is going to stay on my bench and until I see what he's capable of, and that's is it Matt Breida?
Yep. Matt Breda. Yep.
I could remember his first name just to make sure.
Matthew.
But Matthew, nice. Anyway, he's a running back for the San Francisco 49ers, and he had problems with injury last year, which a lot of their running backs have and continue to. But seems to be healthy this year. And when he played last year, he was just baller. He had great stats. He was, leading the NFL in a lot of categories in rushing, but had trouble staying healthy. But then Jerick McKinnon, who was hurt that year, appeared to be coming back. Then they also signed Tevin Coleman, and I can't remember the other guys' names, but they even had some other running backs that, showed promise. So I was hesitant, but fast forward to the draft, and Jerick McKinnon tore his ACL again or something, and so he's out for the rest of the year. And I had Tevin Coleman last year, and I was excited for him, especially when Devontae Freeman got hurt. But he never seemed to really be that number one running back role that I had hoped that he would be with Devontae Freeman out. So I could foresee something similar happening this year with the 49ers, where Tevin Coleman might be getting the first reps, but then Matt Breida outshines him and really takes that place. So he'll stay on my bench until that, if that happens, and then I can swap him in.
Cool. I like it.
Awesome, man. So we're going to bust out some 2018 stats, and we'll use this as a way to kind of test your knowledge a little bit.
Let's do it.
All right. So we're going to go through the top 5 passers who threw the most yards in the NFL last year. We talked about this, so you probably remember.
Yeah, it's Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, that's right. Who do you think? It doesn't have to be in order. Who'd your guess be for the 4 remaining passers?
Matt Ryan.
Yep.
Andrew Luck.
Yep. Yep. Matt Ryan number 2. Andrew Luck number 5.
Let's see. Tom Brady.
Nope. I'll get horns. Where's your?
Oh, Kirk Cousins.
Nope.
Love Kirk Cousins, by the way. Horns, huh? Let's see here. Making horns right now.
Not sure what Kirk Cousins
Bulls.
the horn.
Well, the logo on the helmet.
The
the fuck.
the Vikings.
Yeah, the thing. It kind of reminds me of horns.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Animal horns.
Animal. The Bulls. Michael Jordan.
Jared Goff.
Jared
Rams.
Goff. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. What about the top 5 rushing yards in the NFL? Who do you recall? Who number 1 was?
Ezekiel Elliott.
Yep. Can you guess the other 4?
Todd Gurley.
Yep. Todd Gurley number 3.
Alvin Kamara.
Nope.
Chris Carson.
Yep. Chris Carson number 5.
Let's see. Joe Mixon.
Yep. Joe Mixon number 4. So you just need number 2.
Or 2. Let's see. Wasn't Christian McCaffrey?
Nope.
No, wasn't Todd Gurley?
No, Todd Gurley was number 3.
Okay. Let's see. Rushing yards.
The opposite of small.
Saquon.
There you go.
Okay.
Giants.
Yeah.
All right. Last category, the top 5 receiving yards.
Jerry Rice, Antonio Brown, Jericho Cotchery, and Superman. No.
None of those were correct.
Yeah, none of those were, yeah. Receiving yards?
Receiving yards.
Antonio Brown?
No, Antonio Brown was not there.
Devontae Adams? Michael Thomas?
Nope. None of those guys.
Julio Jones?
Julio Jones, number 1.
Okay.
Julio is also a name that he
Julio,
goes by.
yes, Julio Jones. Forgive me. Let's see. Wide receivers, yards.
A couple of first-round picks from this year.
Oh, Juju Smith-Schuster?
Yep. He was number 5.
DeAndre Hopkins?
Yep. DeAndre Hopkins, number 2. So you got 2 more, 3 and 4.
Let's see. Odell Beckham. No, I'm joking. I'm just trying to get first round.
These guys.
Tyreek Hill?
Yeah, Tyreek Hill.
Okay.
And then number 3 is a little bit surprising to me. I would not have guessed this person, and he's typically not in the first round.
Corey Davis.
No.
No. I just wanted to say his name with such conviction. Corey Davis.
It's never happened before.
I drafted him a bunch this year.
Did you really?
Yeah, as like a just a fourth wide receiver. Because I mean, geez, if even Ryan Tannehill can hopefully take over, I mean, he may be worth a shit. I don't know. I just think Marcus Mariota it ain't working. And he just fell so far. I noticed AJ Green, I noticed T.Y. Hilton, and I know Corey Davis definitely fell pretty far.
Wow. Well, good luck with that pick, bro.
Yeah, thank you. Geez, all right, let me think here. So it's not Antonio Brown. Let me think of some of the higher. Mike Evans?
Yep, Mike Evans.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
Mike
I
Evans
wouldn't have thought that.
in the house.
So, going to this year, 2019, who do we think are going to, for the same categories, who do we think are going to be those top players? So, let's start with passing yards. Who do you think is going to lead the NFL in 2019 for regular season passing yards?
I think Matt Ryan. I like their offense. I think with Dirk Cutter being back, they're going to be a lot more pass heavy. They drafted, I'm pretty sure they were, they had 2 offensive linemen in the first round. I think they were specifically like they had strengths in their pass blocking. And so, yeah, I think Matt Ryan would be my choice.
I think that is a solid choice. And this is definitely a gamble on my part. Ben Roethlisberger led the NFL in passing yards last year. I feel he can do it again. Most people would not expect that since Antonio Brown is no longer there. However, I think that there was a lot of pressure to feed the ball to Antonio Brown and a lot of forced throws. And he ended up not even... I mean, he still had a decent season, but it was like the first year where he wasn't in the top 5 in receiving yards in a while. And so Roethlisberger's has always been pretty good about spreading the ball to other players and not having that pressure of having to force it to a particular player and dump it off to the running backs. I like what Connor and Jalen Samuels, the running backs for the Steelers, are doing in the pass game in the preseason and also towards the end of last season. And some of the rookies and younger players are really stepping up. So that combined with Vance McDonald hopefully taking that next step as a tight end, I think has a good chance of being the number 1 in passing yards again this year.
I like it. Hopefully, I have Dante Moncrief on my bench right next to Corey Davis. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, let's see.
Oh, that'd be an interesting who has more receiving yards at the end of the year, Moncrief or Corey Davis.
Yeah, you know what? Probably. Even though we're talking a wide receiver 1 and a wide receiver 2 or 3.
Oh, at least yeah.
I should say on their teams, not in fantasy.
Right. So yeah, maybe if we'll take a note of that and keep a track on it.
Yeah.
Moncrief versus Davis, year-long thing. All right, so who do you think will lead the NFL in rushing yards?
Zeke Elliott. I expect him to be signed here soon, but I mean, geez, he's just amazing. He's always the 101 to me.
That's a risky pick, assuming that he'll even play all the games.
Yeah, I think he will. I mean, maybe he misses 1. Maybe
okay.
2.
Yeah, you think that's the most?
I do. I mean, just all the I mean, who knows though? Who the fuck really knows? But all the updates I've been getting that seem to be going over the contract details.
They seem to be pointing in towards the contract getting done. So, my pick is Saquon Barkley. I still think that they seem pretty weak at receiver on the Giants side, and that was his rookie year. So I think that really getting more comfortable with the team and his role, and I don't think he was necessarily lacking any confidence, but I can imagine that he's gotten even more confident, and it fits in well with the team and the way that they play. So I could see him having a really good year.
Cool. Yeah. No, I'm all about Saquon. I have him in one of my main dynasty leagues. I was able to draft him at the 105 spot. I had a friend who drafted 104. He got Le'Veon Bell, and I couldn't believe it. I thought he was going to get Barkley, because in dynasty you want the younger player, especially if you're going to go running back. But typically that's the idea, is you want to have a player for as long as possible. So I was very happy to get Barkley. So yeah, no, I think it's a great pick.
Awesome, man. Well, our top picks for who's going to have the most receiving yards kind of go hand in hand with the quarterbacks that we chose.
Yes. I just realized that, yes.
So you chose Julio Jones.
I did. I chose Julio Jones. and I just think he's great. He's unstoppable. He's a force. He's maybe lacking in touchdowns sometimes as far as the recent years, but yeah, he's dominant.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I finally feel pretty good about Julio and his health. That was a concern for me
Totally.
for a while, but he was solid last year, and he started getting those touchdowns, and that offense is looking pretty good. So I can totally understand choosing Julio.
Yeah.
So along with me choosing Ben Roethlisberger for leading the league in passing, I chose Juju Smith-Schuster for leading the league in receiving yards. Obviously, I think that he kind of similar to what I was thinking with Saquon Barkley. I think he's getting a little bit more comfortable. He's now established that number one receiver role, and him and Roethlisberger seem to have a really good connection in terms of comfort and trust, and he has a body size, and I just feel good about him taking that leap and getting those yards.
Awesome.
All right, time for our next segment, which
All
is
right.
the You Don't Know Zach trivia game.
I love it.
So Zach has no idea what these questions are. Maybe I don't even know what these questions are,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where they're gonna come from.
and they can range quite a bit. So we want rapid fire, quick responses from you, Zach.
Okay.
So
We can do
don't overthink it.
Let's
And
do it.
here we go. Who led the NFL in sacks last year?
Jerron Brown.
Incorrect. Aaron Donald.
Aaron Donald. Okay.
Do you struggle with intimacy?
Sometimes, yeah.
What do you think is your favorite body part of yourself?
I'd probably say my bicep.
Who led the NFL in tackles
Um,
last year?
I believe it was Aaron Donald.
Who's your least favorite family member?
My least favorite family member right now is my cousin who drafted Drama Allison 101.
Who led the NFL in interceptions last year?
Joe Hayden.
Incorrect. Kyle Fuller.
Kyle Fuller. Okay.
I don't think I even told you for the tackles. It was Darius Leonard.
Oh, okay.
Everyone, that's pretty common knowledge. All right, that concludes our first.
All right. Cool. All right.
it's pretty good.
I can't deal with intimacy, and my cousin is, yeah, he's the worst.
All right, so we're going to talk about our game of the week.
All right. Hell yeah.
And this is just the game that we're most excited for, and we're going to talk about the fantasy implications of it. What is the game of the week, Zach?
So the game of the week is Steelers at Patriots. What we also did is we had a little fun with doing a Madden simulation, where we put those teams against each other to kind of get a possible idea of what we could expect. And I believe that Madden, John has the scores right here.
Yes, and it should give a little bit of information. So the Madden simulation we did was with Madden 19, not Madden 20, but I downloaded rosters that someone
Hell yeah.
that someone put up for that include the rookies and the cuts and stuff, so we could have an accurate roster. And also, most of the times when I've seen other people do Madden simulations, they just let the computers roll, and I was like, no, not us. I'm gonna play as the Steelers
Oh, hell yeah.
on all Madden mode,
Okay.
but also arcade mode, so crazier stuff can also happen.
Love arcade.
So the score was Patriots 28, Steelers 42.
All right. Damn.
Yeah, we had some big deep passes to James Washington
Okay.
on there. James Conner broke off some big runs.
Like it.
It started off neck and neck. Both the Patriots just marched down the field, pretty much tore up the Steelers' defense, scored a touchdown. Steelers had a little bit rougher first drive, but were still able to march down and get a touchdown. And a couple turnovers, one fumble and one interception was the difference in that game. So we'll see if that is what happens in real life.
I like it. Yeah, it's a fun way to just have something to include with the game of the week.
So what are some of the players that you're excited for in this game from a fantasy perspective?
So just to kind of go through some of the obvious ones with Juju Smith-Schuster and James Conner. And then there's Sony Michel on the Patriots. He's running back for the Patriots. James White, same thing, running back for the Patriots. Josh Gordon. Big fan of Josh Gordon.
Really excited to see what happens with him this year in general. I got him in at least one team of mine.
Cool.
Probably reached a little bit for him as well, but the upside of, Tom Brady with, a really talented receiver who maybe can stay in the league this year, but we'll see.
I definitely root for him. Julian Edelman, and then the Pats running backs. I'm kind of interested to see how they distribute the carries, see if anyone stands out.
Yeah, Sony Michel going to be that, Le'Veon Bell type player where he's just fed the ball a lot, or are they going to do a running back by committee like they've done in the past?
Exactly, yeah, just to see if Sony Michel's knee's going to, withstand all those.
True,
all
some
those
injury
carries.
concern.
Yeah, exactly, injury concerns. And also to see the wide receiver 2 in Pittsburgh. See if it's James Washington. Is it going to be more Dante Moncrief? Is it going to be even the tight end Vance McDonald?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways that could go. So it's a Sunday night game. Just looking at all the different matchups, that's the one that definitely stood out to me as the most interesting from like a fan perspective, and I think it'll be a great way for Week 1 Sunday night game.
Oh, dude, I'm excited. I thought it was the Cowboys Giants, but that's in the afternoon, so I'm glad it's actually going to be the Patriots Steelers.
Seemed like Tom Brady in most of the drafts I was in was dropped a lot lower than other previous years. Do you think that was fair, or people are just more excited about the new hotness with Mahomes and Baker Mayfield, or is it justified with the way how low he was in most leagues?
I think so. I think Tom Brady is taking a step back with fantasy as far as being as productive as he once was, because the Patriots are more of a run-first team in the past couple of years, so I think some of Tom Brady's numbers have definitely gone down from that. So as far as it being like a solid fantasy quarterback, there's a lot more options ahead of Tom Brady. But he comes with a high-powered offense. It's Tom Brady, yada, yada. But as far as fantasy, we only have him on our dynasty team because of you. No. He's honestly for our dynasty team. He's a great asset. Really,
I mean, we got
Kyler Murray,
got great value. Yeah, it's true. We still got Kyler Murray.
Yeah, and Teddy Bridgewater. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Zach's a big Teddy fan.
Love Teddy Bridgewater. Watch out.
He's a quarterback for the Saints or
Yeah,
something, right?
for the Saints. Yep.
Yeah, most people probably have no idea.
Probably don't know, but yeah, hey, they're paying him pretty good money for a backup, and
yeah, he's probably available in all of your leagues.
Probably, unless it's Dynasty, then he's probably not. Dynasty, you want all these guys, every player.
All right, let's talk about our pizza of the week, Zach.
Let's do it.
So the pizza of the week this week that we ate right before this podcast is Giovanni's. It's in Albuquerque, New Mexico, like we said, where we're at, on San Pedro, kind of close to Gibson. It's one of my favorite pizzas in general. Even when I go to other cities where there's good pizzas there, if it doesn't match up, I sometimes think of Giovanni's. Like, man, you guys got to go back to Albuquerque and get that Giovanni's
pizza.
It's a thinner pizza. I really like the texture and flavor of the cheese and how it complements the sauce. I will say that by default, not quite enough sauce for me, so I always ask for extra sauce. And well done. Even though it's a thinner pizza, it's not super crispy, at least on the actual cheese underneath the cheese section. The end of the crust is crispy, but underneath there, and that's been difficult for me to find outside of New York. In my experience. So we had talked about a lot of pizzas in general, especially in Albuquerque, tend to do better if you order it with extra sauce and well done.
Oh, yeah. You got to know how your flavors are going to come out. You got to know what you're working with. And if I were to ask you, it's kind of loud. If I were to ask you to give us a player comparison to your Giovanni's pizza experience, sort of as a review, who would you compare it to?
Man, for me, I would say that it is a Christian McCaffrey.
Whoa.
Yeah, for me.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
He catches a lot of passes.
Yeah, catches a lot of passes, is hyped up pretty high.
Big arms.
You know, may not always get the rushing yards that you would expect, but makes up for it in PPR leagues with the receptions
Oh,
and
yeah.
consistency and touchdowns and reliability. Giovanni's has always been very consistent with me. I've never, had an experience where it's like, whoa, what the hell happened with this pizza? It's very consistent, both in the experience as well as the pizza itself. What about you? What about you, Zach?
I enjoyed Giovanni's. It was just okay though. I would say if I'm going to give a player comparison, it would be Carlos Hyde. Still pizza. It was delicious. It has a lot of upside. There's definitely positives with it. But just not anything I'm going to write home about, to be honest with you. Not something I'm going to brag about, or I'm going to pull up my phone and look at my roster and, look at that player and be like, oh, hell yeah. So I would say it'd be Carlos Hyde. That's a pretty even comparison.
With that said, if Carlos Hyde is available in your leagues,
Pick him up.
pick
Yes.
him up.
Yes.
And he was available in one of my leagues, and I picked him off the
Awesome.
bench. It was
Awesome.
It was great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Granted, we drafted before the news of him going to the Texans
Okay, well,
happened,
hey.
but the fact that he was still available was great.
Excuse me. So yeah, that's a great little tidbit there. That's all about being on waivers. Having that hustle.
All right, man. We're gonna close out the show. Why don't you tell us what we can expect for next week's show?
Next week's show we're actually it's gonna be a little bit more formatted. We were just sort of riffing here and just want to introduce
The season hadn't
ourselves.
started yet, so
Yeah,
we
the
wanted
season
you guys to
hasn't-
know get a feel for us and what's
Exactly.
going on.
Yeah, a little banter back and forth. But we're gonna have week 1 reactions. We're gonna give our pepperoni of the week and our pineapple of the week. As you said earlier, the pepperoni will be the standout player in the positive way, and pineapple will be the player you wanted to produce but did not. We'll also be including our must starts. We'll do waiver wire ads for week 2, and just throw in a couple randoms here with the pizza. We'll do another pizza review. We'll talk a little music, and then just to go over some of the overall reactions and talk about more pizza.
Awesome, man. Where can they find us on social media one more time?
That's great. So you can find John. I'm going to do John's. You can find him at Life Never Lost, and that's on Twitter and Instagram.
Dang.
Check that out. I know.
Mark.
And then Mark. Yeah. And then for myself on Twitter, it's FF Pizza Man, and then Instagram, it's Fantasy Football Pizzeria, where you can find me and say what's up.
Awesome, man. Well, this was a great first show.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun, man.
Thank you for sharing it with me. Tell us what you guys think, what you like, what you don't like, what you want to hear more of. More Wookiee sounds, more farts.
I will be farting.
More yawns.
I'll be yawning, maybe. Probably not.
Yeah, we'll probably try to do it earlier.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, but it's all good,
Well, do you want to say your quote?
Sure. So we're into words, quotes. We're into blinking and
Super
breathing.
into words.
We like words. We like alphabet soup. We like, we see signs and we like to say them and stuff, and we like to read. No, there's a lot of different layers to us, and one of them, is definitely being into the written word. So I'm big on quotes. I send them out to my coworkers, and it's just a nice thing to have where, something to kind of think about and to enjoy. So we have some quotes. They may be pizza related. They may be football related. They may be related to a vagina. It could be anything.
It's open to interpretation.
It could be open to interpretation.
Maybe it's about fantasy football.
It could be about fantasy football. It really could.
Pizza.
And pizza. So ultimately, the one I chose is from Hurricane Dicka, and it is success isn't permanent and failure isn't fatal. Fatal is like, when you die.
Well, I'm going to think about that quote out loud as Zach goes to the drums.
Yeah, I want to go play drums.
So he's going to play drums while I read the last quote. So success isn't permanent and failure isn't fatal. Man, that's like, forget about living in the moment, I guess. You can't really be happy with your success, but I guess you don't have to be depressed about, failing. But with fantasy football, it's all about being in that moment. So maybe it's good to have that perspective that there's always next week and there's always next season. And Zach is getting on the drums now. He is. This is the first time he's ever played these drums. It's an awkward corner in the studio. We'll see how the volume is picked up on the mics here.
Do I get that same headset for it?
It'll just play through the speaker.
Did I turn it on?
Oh, is it on
I
there?
guess that would have to be on too, right?
Let me see.
This
part out.
There we go. Oh, look at that.
All right, here we go. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, as Martin Luther King Jr. However, in fantasy football, people will be judged by their stats and not the content of their character. I'm talking to you, Tyreek Hill. Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Football Pizzeria Podcast.
This is cool.
All right.